What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome into the NFL Weekly, the Wild Card Weekend edition, breaking down the 6 games we have on tap as we begin to narrow the field down, of course, to the Super Bowl. With me, as always, is my co-host, Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, now I've changed my name this week to Playoff Jim Martinez for the first time in 5 years. So why not?
Amen. I love it. And I'll tell you what, we joked about it last week when we talked about the Raider Charger game, that there is a possibility we could go into that game and both teams knowing, hey, we could kneel on the ball. And we both go to the playoffs. It would have been a very interesting scenario. Like I told my parents I was watching it with, I don't think the NFL would let that happen. I don't know how, but halfway through someone would go, pull the teams off the field, have a little talking to, and let's get back to it. Anyways, that obviously didn't become the case. However, we got into a situation where, we're going to overtime and, you kind of chuckle. And then we get to that final drive, if you will. And I know Raider Jim, I had to do a little bit of welfare check on him. He was a half hour behind. I feel like you need to be given a sports medal to somehow stay under that rock for even those 30 minutes, because that was, I'm not a fan of either team. I was obviously pulling for the Raiders because of Raider Jim and my hatred for the Spanos family. But I didn't really have a dog in the fight, and it was incredibly stressful. Raider Jim, what were your thoughts on Sunday, watching kind of all that, knowing there's no real rope here? One bad mistake and your season ends.
I think the 2 times when the whole Raider in me really came out was early in that first half when the Chargers went for it from their own 17, 18-yard line. And I was like, that is just disrespect. That is just disrespect that you think you can convert from down there against anybody, let alone, my team, the Raiders. And then when they called that timeout in overtime, it was just like, really? You know what? It almost seemed, you looked on the sidelines, you looked at Carr, you looked at everybody, and they were all like, they didn't just call a timeout. And so I'm screaming on my sofa, all kinds of expletives and yeah. Now we're going to teach you a lesson.
Yep.
You should have just let the clock, you wouldn't have called timeout. We wouldn't have done it, or the Raiders might have rushed it and screwed up.
I agree. There's even a video of, I forget the individual who was talking to Austin Eckler after the game, but it seemed to be for Eckler kind of a sideways head motion, like, really? And you would have to imagine that is someone telling him, dude, we're perfectly fine taking the tie. And then you called a timeout. And then for the Raiders, that's a no-lose situation. Obviously you could fumble, the field goal could be blocked, but we're talking about very small situations here. And I, with all due respect to Brandon Staley, I think he's been the best head coach the Chargers have had in quite some time. However, he cost them that game, not once, but twice. Once again, going back to the 4th and 1. What a lot of people don't realize, they ran the same play on 3rd and 1 and were stuffed. So it's one thing to say, okay, but run play action or run a fake fullback dive and mix something up. They run it right down. That, like you said, it almost is just okay, whatever. That was a fluke. Let's do this again and let's get on with our day into the playoffs. And then the timeout. I think they showed Bisaccia on the sideline, and he kind of had one of those, oh, okay. It's like that moments. Like, okay, fair enough. You want to do it like that? Run the ball. And of course, my goodness, that might have been the best game that at least I've seen. And Raider Jim, you can kind of piggyback on it for Jacobs that we've seen. He was incredible. Running the football, you say whatever you want about a subpar run defense that night, but everything he needed to do, he did. And that's key for somebody I know you've been, been overly critical of. Not overly, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
you've been critical of.
He ran with anger. He ran with anger. He ran with attitude. And if it's taken the last 3 games for him to get there, and he can do that for this coming up game, and if there's a game after that and a game after that, good, I'll take it. But yeah, it did take him a while. And what do you say about Jalen Richard, 4th down and 22, and you hand him the ball and up the middle he goes and gets the first down. And I'm telling you, he was a half a step away, if even a half a step away from just taking it the whole way.
Yeah.
But and that doesn't surprise me. He's been that guy for a few seasons now. I'm very high on Jalen Richard. So good to see the whole all around performance from the running backs. But I got to tell you, if you left it into up to Carr, I don't know. But when you leave it on the leg of Carlson, big mistake. That guy has been money. He has been the offense for the Raiders the last few weeks. He's kept them in. He's put them ahead. He's got them the games. And what he had 15, 17 points the other night. So
and some onion kicks, if you will, some of those that show the old quote unquote testicular fortitude. Even with that game, because I did hear a lot of people say, that was probably the least pressure game-winning kick ever. And I understand what they're saying, because look, if he misses it, they still go to the playoffs. But that's not a mindset of a kicker. You go out, this is my chance. This is my chance. Very few times you get that opportunity. He went out, got the job done. And that brings us to the situation at hand. It will be the first game we'll be talking about this weekend. It's going to be a good one. Saturday, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 on the East. Do the math in between. It's the Raiders heading to the Cincinnati Bengals. Currently, the line is the Bengals 5.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 49. In terms of the weather, it will be cold. However, there will be no rain or snow. About mid-20s and clear, barring some crazy weather coming in the next few days that roll through. But can't start this one off with none other than Raider Jim. So what do you got for us, Mr. Martinez?
Boy, I tell you what, -5.5 on the road, or I should say +5.5 on the road. If you're taking the Raiders, here's where the Raiders are really going to be tested right out of the gate, because you've got Joe Burrow, you got Mixon, and you've got that wide receiver that they have that is just tearing it up for a rookie. Boy, that's a three-headed monster that their work is cut out for them. On the positive side, if you're a Raider fan, the Bengals offensive line is not killer. They are not the guys that just provide a lot of protection. They provide enough, but they also give up a lot of pressure. And if Crosby can play like he did the other night, unfortunately, Darius Philon is out, and that guy had 2 plays that basically, wow, that really lit a fire under the rest of his defensive teammates. But I think they are going to have enough. Hankins might be back in to help a little bit in the middle on the run game. Perriman's going to have to really step it up, and the linebacking core just really has to play a better game than they did against the run against the Chargers, because there were too many plays where, it was just right up the middle. There, I don't know where the nose guard was. I would have to go back and look at what the defensive line scheme was, but there was nobody in the box behind where the nose guard would play. And I'm like, well, you can't just give up 4 yards like that. You can't let these guys get 4-6 yards on first down every drive, because you're shooting yourselves in the foot. And especially if the Raiders, once again, are not going to be able to convert if they do get that 3rd and 3 and out. So Carr's got to play flawless. He has to be very calculated. He has to make the throws when they count. Even some of the some of it was on Carr, some of it was on the wide receivers the other night, but they have to get in sync. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow at all. But I think Cincinnati, they should be the favorite. I understand why they're the favorite. However, in the betting scheme of things, Las Vegas, with this spread and on the road and all, they've got a good record this year. So I would take the Raiders +6 on this one. Not saying it's a sure thing that they're going to win, but do they cover? I think they cover. Also because of the weather. Doesn't have to be raining. Doesn't have to be snowing. It's cold, and that might very well impact how well both teams are able to throw the ball. So I would even go under 49 in this one.
Yeah, I look at this for the Raiders defense. This is essentially 2 weeks in a row of them facing the next generation, if you will, or I mean, obviously in defeat. I don't know if I've ever seen a quarterback just, I mean, left it all on the field. Justin Herbert, 6 of 6, I think, for 110 yards on fourth down. Incredible stuff. And now you have Joe Burrow, who maybe hasn't had that one game like that Herbert has, but for the season, came back from injury, had all this expectation on him last year, looked good, had the unfortunate injury, came back, has been really good. Definitely a top 10 quarterback this year.
Absolutely.
I think for the Raiders, though, I agree with you. I think, plus 5.5, plus 6. I don't know if I've ever seen a team go through what this team has gone through off the field. You have losing a coach in a way that it's very rare to see. It was, whether you wanted Gruden there or not, it wasn't the situation. In that point, you would have been like, fire him because of what he's done on the field. It was obviously the off the field stuff. That's awkward. And then the Henry Ruggs situation that, I mean, very few teams have had to actually go through in the moment. And they've not only fought back, but there were, I hate to say it, and luckily I've been wrong for Raider Jim and all the Raider fans, but there were a couple times that myself personally, I felt like I pronounced this team dead. I did not think we'd be here, and so it's hard for me, with that being said, to sit here and say, look, Joe Burrow making his first career playoff start is going to cover 5.5, is going to cover 6. I think actually Joe Burrow being at home here, there's more pressure on him. I would not be surprised to see the Raiders get it done, but I think this is a field goal game one way or another. I just, of all the home teams this weekend, at least in the AFC, I think the Bengals are the most vulnerable. So give me that. I actually like it the other way on the over-under, though. I do think we're going to see some points being scored. The offensive line for Cincinnati, definitely an issue. But I do think after what we saw last week from Crosby, there was going to be some extra emphasis in that offensive line, Walker, in that meeting room and things like that. So I will take the over, and maybe that's just my my personal bias, because I'm going to be doing this game on Colorcast. So I really want this to not only be a really close game, but a fun kind of shootout. But it's going to be a good one. And it'll be a great start to wild card weekend. As we look ahead to the next game, it's going to be an AFC East grudge match. The New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills 4.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 44.5. And this will more than likely be by far the coldest game of the weekend. Temperatures are going to be in the low single digits. I think 5 might be the high. They get no weather. It will be clear, but it's still going to be very cold. Probably that wind chill will get you down to, into the negative. So keep an eye on that. Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? Buffalo handled their business last week, got the job done, and they're the home team here. They're 4.5-point favorites against kind of that team that their rival that they're just trying to get one over on, the Patriots.
And again, Buffalo started out, they were going to be the guys to beat. They were going to be the number 1 seed. They ran into a real bad string of inconsistency and shocked and surprised a lot of people. And even now, they're the 3 seed. They're not even the 2 seed. They are the 3 seed. And Bill Belichick got himself back into the playoffs. Bill Belichick knows how to coach in these situations. Bill Belichick, he's John Wooden. He's John Wooden. You can give me, 5 new starters every year, and I'm going to go in. I'm going to give the same speech I gave last year and the year before and the year before and the year before. But somehow the same speech always works, and he gets production out of the players, and he gets them all together, and he gets them pointed in the right direction, the same direction, and he gets them all looking out for one another. I think New England is going to win this game, quite honestly. I like New England definitely to cover. Always go the half point now. So give me New England +5, but I see them covering. And I think, it should be over 44, and it's not going to rain.
No, don't believe so. But if there is going to be any moisture in the air, judging by the low temperature, I feel like it has to be snow.
Yeah.
Now, once again, I'm not a meteorologist, but I feel like when you're in the 5 degrees to 0, it won't be rain, or at best it'll be sleet, or at worst, I should say. But yeah, this is going to be tough. But for me, the Bills defense, maybe besides Kansas City's defensive unit, has been some of the best or the most improved over the last few weeks. They've finished, I believe, with a number of, top rankings, points per play, yards per game, things like that. So they figured that out. Ironically enough, it's the offense that's a bit of a head scratcher. Right. And that's why I agree with you. I think we're going to see, 20-17 here. I hate to say it, but I think that's our maximum. It's going to be a night game. It's going to be cold. They're going to run the football a lot. And let's not forget, this was that game. We're not going to see those same conditions. But Mac Jones threw the ball, 3 times? So right. Buffalo has seen every conceivable run from New England, more than likely, running the ball however many times they did. I just think the familiarity here, offense versus defense, we're going to see a grinded out football game. And anything lower than, or over 2.5, I like New England as well. I don't know if they'll get the job done. In these games, I think experience goes a long way, and Mac Jones has been incredible. However, there is a moment in the fourth quarter where all eyes are going to be on him, and this isn't a normal, game. This is right. All eyes, every single football fan bearing down on him. And whether he likes it or not, a high majority of them are going to root for him to fail because of the team he plays for. So, and he's going to be on the road. I think Buffalo wins it by a field goal, but I will gladly take New England. And, it would probably be worth taking a look at that money line come game time. Because if it's plus 200 or more, see if you can get New England. I mean, right. New England or Belichick and the Patriots in the playoffs at 2-1. You're not going to see that too often. So
and I that also could possibly
think
be it. You said something, and you're very right. They've seen every look. The Bills have seen every look. But man, if there's going to be somebody that's got 2 looks that he hasn't pulled out until now, he might have schemed this one over the summer and said, I'm just holding this one because when we meet up with them for the 3rd time, they're going to be blown away, and they're just going to stand there like, what are we looking at here? There's just something about him. He's just got that magic.
I agree. That's a great point. And I think all year, the writing's been on the wall for both of these teams that more than likely we will see a third, the rubber game, at least, if you will. I'm bringing baseball analogy into this, but moving on.
Plus 165 right now.
Okay. All right. I'd like to see that get a little, man, that's okay. Yeah, I was thinking plus 200 with that might be next round if the Patriots get through. But yeah, that might be a bit greedy on my part. But like I said, plus 165. I think there's value there. But the plus 4.5, I think you feel real good about in that matchup. But moving on to the Sunday matchups, there will be 3 games on Sunday, beginning with the morning game. Obviously, I will be glued to the TV on this one. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are 8.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 46.5. In terms of the temperature, this will technically be the warmest outdoor game of the weekend. However, we are expecting rain, or we should expect rain in this one, but the weather will be in the 60s in Tampa. So, other than, monsoonal conditions, we should not see weather be a factor. And I'll take this one, obviously. Last week for the Eagles, that was not a game that they wanted to win, or I mean, they would have taken it, but never in a million years did they think they were going to win that game when you throw the players out that they did week 18. Got everybody out that needed to make a record or get their incentives, blah, blah, blah. But looking ahead to this week, the Philadelphia Eagles, this might be their toughest matchup of all, period, because of what Tampa Bay it does against the run and how good they are against the run. However, the one thing I will say, these two teams met earlier in the year. Tampa Bay absolutely dominated that game. You watch that and you look at the stats and you see everything and you go, that was a good old-fashioned ass whooping. They won by 7. So once again, I believe the Eagles have a ceiling. There is not a Super Bowl run in this team. The old hungry dogs run faster from 2018 does not apply here. They will be underdogs, but they are not that team that has that mentality. They're very gritty. They're very tough. They may win this game, but that is it. This will all they do. And like I said, it's going to be a tough matchup. Two things need to happen, and this is why I think they can happen. First and foremost, the offensive line. You're going to have a lot of run, more than likely, even with Tampa Bay's inability to kind of give it up. It's tough to run against them. Jeff Stoutland is going to get that offensive line ready to roll. And I go back, I liken it to, excuse me, the late 90s Broncos with Terrell Davis and Mike Anderson. And it seemed like no matter who you put in that backfield, they were going to rush for 1,500 yards because of the zone blocking concept. And now everybody implements it one way or another, but taking it to the next level, how are you going to create mismatches against a defense that is so good against Tampa? I think Jeff Stoutland can do that. And then secondly, I think on the defensive side of the ball, my biggest concern facing a guy like Brady, I think they can get enough pressure on him. I think that won't be a problem. However, it's the tight end, it's the intermediate passing game. The linebackers for the Eagles do not get nearly enough depth on deep balls. I'm perfectly fine. Give up the underneath route. But when you get beat over the top, over your head as a linebacker, it's almost guaranteed to be 20 yards. And more than likely, the guy who's coming in to try and make that tackle, he's outweighed by, 15, 20 pounds. And I'm never going to ask a linebacker to fully one-on-one cover a tight end or a running back. But at the very least, you need to kind of think of yourself as a mini safety. Keep things in front of you. Keep Gronk, keep them in front of you, and let's play. And eventually, that boundary is going to shrink things, and you're going to have to figure it out that way. So that would be my two concerns, and hopefully the way they can get it done. And like I said, this is a winnable game for the Eagles. All that said and done, I will take the Eagles plus 8.5. Like I said, they were pretty much dominated week, whatever that was, and still only lost by a touchdown. So I'll take that. In terms of the over-under, I do like the under here. I think this is going to be a cagey game. I think the weather will affect things. I don't think Brady will be too discouraged by the rain, but I more look at the wide receivers and things like that. And then for the Eagles, look, this cannot turn into a shootout. It can't, or it's over. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? Eagles, big underdogs on the road in Tampa.
Yeah, I agree with the Eagles being able to cover this one. They have that heck of a running game, but unfortunately, as you alluded to, the defense for Tampa Bay, those boys can defend the run, and they have all year. I think they're top 5 or close to it in run defense. Let me look real quick here. They're number 3. They only give up 92 yards a game. However, they're 22nd in the passing game, which, for Philadelphia, it may not be their strong suit, but if they can adapt and go to that, maybe they'll have a little bit of luck with it. I'm with you. I think it's going to go under 47 in this one. I see something like 24-17. There's 41 points, and there's your cover on the spread. If Philadelphia, like the Raiders, they've got their work cut out for them on the road. And Tampa Bay, I got to believe that they have a little bit of chip on their shoulder for not being the number 1 seed, and they are not going to look past Philadelphia. But I can see the mentality being from Tom Brady, okay, we got to play this game, and that's the only game that matters today. But let's go out and make a statement. Let's execute flawlessly. Let's be flawless. Let's make no mistakes, and let's show everybody, we're in this for the long haul, and we're in it to get to that championship game.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a lot closer than most people think. And I really do believe it's the strength versus strength, the unstoppable object versus the immobile force, whatever that is, a fantastic run game against a fantastic defense. And I just hope for Nick Sirianni, they stick to the run. As long as they can. Look, they're down 21-0 in the third quarter. Okay, you got to do what you got to do, but you don't panic if you're 3-and-out in your first couple of drives. Keep pounding the rock, keep doing what you're doing, because they cannot win this game with Jalen Hurts throwing the ball more than 25, maybe 30 times. It will not be a win for the Eagles. So Moving on to the nightcap for, oh no, I'm sorry, afternoon game on Sunday. An old or rivalry renewed, if you will. The San Francisco 49ers heading to Dallas. The Cowboys are 3-point favorites. The over-under here is 51. This is no weather needed here as it's Jerry's World's Dome. So it nothing to deal with there. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on this matchup that I tell you what, in the 90s used to be pretty much, it seemed like every NFC title game was these two teams going at it. But what are your thoughts for the 2022 wildcard edition?
Yeah, definitely a throwback here. And I will tell you, basing it on last Saturday, I would have, if you told me that was going to be the matchup on wildcard weekend, I'd say San Francisco doesn't have a chance. But after what I saw them do in the second half of that game against the Rams, and wow, did they come to play the second half. Too bad they weren't there the entire game, but they showed a lot of fortitude and they were able to go out and get the job done. Dallas has just made the last few weekends, let's roll up points and pat ourselves on the ass because, and let, you know, we're just good and we're this and we're that. Dallas appears to me to be the team that's going to look past the opening round and go straight to the championship game. And I think that's going to be their downfall. I don't know that I would take Dallas to cover the 3 on this one. I don't know that I will. I might go money line on San Francisco on this one. I just think San Francisco is going to come out. Their defense is good. They're just overall, they're just solid. They're 7th against the rush. They're 7th against the pass. They're 3rd overall for yards given up during a game. They can play defense. And then, and Garoppolo, for all that he's supposed to have wrong with his thumb, wow, not bad. He didn't do too bad last week. So watch for San Francisco to make it a game. I do like the over in this one. Because again, you're in the dome and these guys just want to have a shootout. Fine, let's have a shootout.
Yeah, you look at the Cowboys, and since Thanksgiving, they had that loss to the Raiders in overtime. They've only lost once since then, and they've dominated, but they've beaten the Saints, the football team twice, the Giants, and an Eagle team that last Saturday night, I mean, once again, Jason Kelce comes in for one snap, get him a consecutive start record. Devontae Smith gets X number of yards. He breaks Deshaun Jackson's record. Boom, he's out. I mean, even the backup center goes down, and we don't go out and bring Kelce back in. It was a full-on, here you go. And with about 3 or 4 minutes left in the half, it was 17-17. Now, I know things got out of control after the fact, but for a while, they were struggling going up against Kenneth Gainwell and Jason Huntley out of the backfield, and Gardner Minshew throwing the ball. I think the Niners not only win this or cover here, but I think they win this game as well. I think the Cowboys need to be on upset watch, and I agree with you. I think they are the exact opposite. They have booked their tickets to Green Bay or here. They've already booked 2, 3 or separate flights. They feel confident in all that. And I feel like a lot of that is because of the teams they played. They played one playoff team since Thanksgiving, and they lost to the Cardinals. I'm sorry, it's 2, but the Eagles were the only one, and that was not their real team. But they played the Cardinals, they lost. Every other team has been the bottom of the barrel, with all due respect to the Saints. They're about average, but the football team and the Giants have been terrible, and they've taken care of business against them and the backups of the Eagles. But it's not going to happen. And let's not forget, Jimmy G, he's got a Super Bowl under his belt. He's got a playoff run under his belt. Might not have ended the way he wanted to, and there's still going to be plenty of questions about his future in San Francisco. But in terms of this week, I think of what they did last week, you would have told me that San Francisco has to go like 85 yards in a minute and a half to keep, whatever, to win that game. No, they're not built for that. And Jimmy G made it look really, really easy. I think that continues, and I don't even know if this is close. I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners really get rolling, and I think a lot of that is my hatred for the Cowboys. But there are a lot of people that I believe that are kind of on the same thinking of me, that Dallas is heavily, heavily vulnerable this weekend. But we'll see how that goes. In terms of the over-under, 51, look, if San Francisco does win this game, I don't think it's a big time shootout. So I like the under here. But that Cowboy offense, I will say, if they are clicking, they are dangerous. But that's kind of a big if everyone's clicking, for better or worse. So moving on to the nightcap on Sunday. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who had to sweat out Sunday night's game at the Kansas City Chiefs. The biggest spread of the weekend by far. The Kansas City Chiefs are 12.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 46.5. In terms of the weather, it will be a clear night, but it'll be between about 30 and 35. So nothing, it will be cold, but nothing that these football players haven't dealt with over the last few weeks. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? Kansas City hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'll tell you, I watched the Chiefs game last week, and of course, they did what they had to do. But what really stood out for me was how off Mahomes was on a handful of plays. He just was not in sync with his receivers, and you could see it on him. Now, I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if they were running a defensive scheme that he just couldn't get his head around or what, but they weren't on. They executed, they scored, they did it. Like I say, they took care of business. But then on the other side of that, you've got, Pittsburgh's defense, they're ninth in passing. They hold people down in the passing game. They don't defend the run real well, but they can control the pass game. And if TJ Watt can create enough pressure, and again, is it a lot of the credit they talk about Max Crosby for the Raiders. But if you really notice, he's just the diversion a lot of times. He's the guy that's just like going crazy out there. And so they have no choice, but he's chasing quarterbacks out of the pocket. He may not get the sacks, but he's also opening it up if they decide they want to send linebackers. Pittsburgh, if they play, that is their best chance. Their defense has to come up. If their defense can step up, they cover the 12.5 points. I'm not going to be surprised if they cover the 12.5 points. Maybe they'll lose by 11, but I think they're going to cover the 12.5. Give me the extra half point, make it 13. And because on the other side of that, I will tell you, yes, the Pittsburgh defense is good enough to keep them in the game. But wow, it was watching Ben Roethlisberger last week. Sometimes it was like watching the old pro wrestler who really his timing's not there when he comes off the ropes anymore. Please don't try to climb to the top turnbuckle. You're going to hurt yourself. It's Jim getting on a ladder and climbing on his roof these days. Just Jim, you really don't need to be up there. You need to get back down on the ground. But hats off to him. If now he knows every game is probably going to be his last.
Yeah.
So at least go out there, leave it on the field, which I think he will, but he's going to need a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, the Steelers got, first of all, very, very lucky, not just the way that the timeout from Staley, if you will, but the Indianapolis Colts, we haven't talked about them, but my goodness, you want to talk about one of the bigger choke jobs we've seen in modern football, that might be it. But so they put the Steelers into that situation, and then for the Steelers to kind of fight through, they were almost dead and buried in their own game against the Ravens, which would have ended it. No, nothing else. Doesn't matter what else is going on. They fight through it. Go back 3 weeks ago, Kansas City 36, Pittsburgh 10. That was in Arrowhead. Yeah. I think we see something closer here. I agree with you. I don't think Pittsburgh wins this game. It may be, within 10. I think that's probably their closest. The number here I'm going to stay away from, but in terms of the over-under, I do like the under here, 46.5. I do think we see a kind of a grittier game. Like you said, Pittsburgh's defense, really, really good. And Kansas City's defense, maybe yardage-wise, isn't fantastic, but they're going to force turnovers. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be, conducive for that. And I saw something the other day. It was thanks Raiders. Now we have to watch Ben Roethlisberger throw 4-yard milk jugs instead of Justin Herbert go for it 19 times on 4th and 22. But no, but it is for Ben Roethlisberger essentially. Winter, it's over. I think even he's admitted this is it. There's not a whole lot left in the tank. And I will say to all those Steeler fans that said, if the Raiders and Chargers would have tied, then something should have been done, blah, blah, blah. The only reason y'all were in that position because you couldn't beat the Lions. So I don't have any sympathy for you.
There you go.
If that was the case. Yeah. If for whatever reason it ended up being a tie and the Steelers missed the playoffs, well, if you can't beat the Lions, you probably shouldn't get a ticket to the dance. So moving on to the first ever Monday Night Wildcard edition. It will be an NFC West matchup, another trilogy, if you will. The Arizona Cardinals heading to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Rams are 4-point favorites here. The over-under here is 49.5. Obviously, with SoFi being a dome, weather will not be an issue. Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the Monday night matchup between the Cardinals and the Rams?
I saw enough on Sunday night, and I think the Cardinals are going to come into this one. They're going to forget all the inconsistency they had during the second half of the season. They're going to put together that same kind of offensive game that they did earlier in the season. And I think they take care of business, no problem. Give me the Cardinals all day long, +4. And I do think because it's inside and you've got two good quarterbacks, you're going to go over 49.5 for sure in this one. Now, on the other side of the ball for the Rams, I understand that Stafford has a bit of a foot problem. They're saying it's his toe. And a lot of people say, oh, it's just his toe. Yeah, that's what a lot of people said about Mahomes, and it was just his toe. And I sat on this very podcast and said, it's just a toe when it's not your toe, and it's going to impact the guy. And it did. It impacted his mobility. So I think the Rams. I hate to say it, but sorry, Don Benson, if you're listening, but I have a feeling the Rams aren't going to be advancing in this one.
I really like the over here. I agree with you. I think we're going to see some fireworks. Like I said, Monday Night Football, they're going to have, 3 full weeks or almost 3 full days to kind of get those juices flowing from when we saw the Raiders kick off to when they kick off. It's, like I said, an odd one. We've never seen a Monday night playoff game, but it's interesting because obviously these two teams split the season series with the road teams winning both of those, whether it was the Rams or the Cardinals in those two situations. I can see it going both ways because for both of these teams, we've seen the Cardinals look like the best team in football. And then conversely, we've seen them go, ooh, I don't even know if they're a playoff team. And then for the Rams, the same way. They've looked really, really good. They've looked unstoppable at times when they beat the hell out of the Buccaneers early on in the season. That I think got a lot of people's attention, and then had their struggles. Now ended up winning the NFC West, but it's two teams that I think are very, very inconsistent, have very high highs and very low lows. I don't really want to take a pick on that one, but I do like the over here if I do kind of have to. I would say that the Cardinals do cover just because look, a team like the Cardinals that started 7 or 8-0, and then now to kind of fall, what are they, 11-6. So it's been a bit of a tough sledding here lately. They still have a lot of great talent on that team, and very quietly, or at least for me, Zach Ertz has been a great pickup. Obviously a little bit of a heavy heart for me. I can only imagine what he'd be doing, but he's been a great pickup for the Cardinals. We'll see if he's a bit of an answer. He's got a lot of wealth of experience, obviously, in the playoffs there. So we'll see how that goes. But
good as the Rams are in the passing game. I mean, again, let's look at it. The defense for the Cardinals, 6th in the league in pass defense. So they know, and they've seen these guys. They know the looks. They've got firsthand experience with them. If anybody can shut them down, they can. And on the other side of the ball, they're just very consistent. 10th in rushing, 8th in passing, 8th overall offensive yards. I just really, really like the Cardinals in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I think at first I was a little kind of, eyebrow raised at the fact that there was going to be a Monday night football game. But I think when Monday night rolls around, I'll be very thankful for it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not the one who has to come back on 6 days or whatever it is. I'm not the one who has to deal with all that. So I'll just enjoy it. But it's going to be a great weekend. I really do think we're going to see a lot of really good football games. Kansas City, Pittsburgh may be a little out of hand, but even Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Tampa may get out of hand as well. But I think all the other games, really, I expect them to be very, very tight and very, very close. But Raider Jim, final thoughts as we get ready to head into the first playoff weekend of the 2022 year.
Well, let's hope that in a week from today, you and I are both sitting here saying, can you believe it? We've both advanced to that next round. I mean, odder things have happened this season, so why not? I'm not discounting anything. As far as the schedule goes, it works out for everybody. It looks like, because you can pick and choose which games you want to see, and it looks like they're all lining up to be good ones. I agree with you. I was surprised when I realized there was going to be Monday Night Football. And then it's like, that's kind of cool, actually. Yeah. So I'm good.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up right now. Let me see. If you want to do what we're calling the off the bench parlay, money line the Raiders and the Eagles, you will get a cool 11-1 return on that. Definitely not advising you there, but I'll tell you what, if you want to ride the wave of this podcast and see if there's still some magic coming out, that would be a nice 11-1 hit. But I agree. I think for the Eagles, for really the second playoff appearance, that we didn't go last year, 2 years ago we made it. It's just kind of a feeling of we're happy to be here. I really do think the ceiling ends in one of the bays, whether it's Tampa this weekend or Green Bay next weekend. With all due respect to the Eagles, maybe they get this one this week, but I don't know how they go to Lambeau. And at that point, you got to take your hat off to these guys, because they were 2-5 at one point. They had traded Zach Ertz. There was a lot of talk about everybody else. There was just a lot of talk overall, and a lot of it was negative. Not only did they right the ship, they got it figured out. They're in the playoffs. I think for us Eagle fans, we have that kind of penchant to get crazy, think that we're the greatest thing ever, when really, we're probably the 12th best team in this playoff right now. So just for all the Eagle fans out there, just enjoy it. If we get a second game, enjoy that as well. But it's been a really fun season. I think the future is bright. Anytime you can do this well in a quote unquote rebuilding year, you got to be happy. But I really do think this will be the final game for the Eagles. And that's okay. It's perfectly fine to go down to a great team like the Buccaneers and the Eagles. And I hope when I start the show off next week, I kind of replay that and tell you how wrong I was, because the Eagles pulled off an upset, but we'll see how that goes. So thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the NFL Weekly, the Wild Card edition, presented by the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench, but we are first. Thanks again so much. Time for y'all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. Take care.
Be safe.